What's going on, family? So we all know that the American economy, the world economy is in shambles right now, but just speaking of the United States, we know that they have essentially wiped out the middle class, and we know that there's just stratification between the lower class and the upper class, where the elite, they're getting more and more elite, and then those on the bottom, they're getting poorer and poorer and poorer every day. This has always been by design. But what I want to draw attention to is that things have gotten so bad that people are now making tutorials about how to move in to storage units. Not small apartments, not tiny homes, but storage units. You know, the average workers, they're making their money at their 9 to 5, they're going in, they're getting their overtime, and then even they are not able to afford rent. And this is what things have been reduced to. Let's take a look.
So if you're going to live in a storage unit, you're going to need to be as invisible as you possibly can be. You basically need to be a ghost. If anybody finds out you're here, that's when you start running into trouble. So first of all, I needed power for my unit. So what I did is I ran an extension cord along the power cable up here, and I sort of zip tied it up. So you can't really tell its power is going to my unit unless you are looking closely. So this is my unit here, and at the top of the unit you can see I have an antenna, and that's so I can get a cell signal inside the unit itself, because once you close the door it drops all signal. I have a lock which I've magnetized onto the door so it looks like it's locked even when it's not. And then when I actually do want to lock it, I can just use this lock or use another one down here and leave that one there. Alright, so let's take a look at the unit now. So in here I've got my TV, entertainment center set up there. I've got my bed. I've got my kitchen area over there, complete with a fridge, and my couch over here. Once you're inside here, you can close the door, and I've screwed on a latch here so that way you can close it and sort of lock it from the inside. I've also put a mirror up so you can see what you're doing. Up here I've got a toaster oven, and this toaster oven actually works pretty well. I'd say it works just as well as a conventional oven. I've got some dishes over here. I've got some more pots and pans over here, and my fridge is right here. Underneath I've got a filing cabinet, some tools, and some storage for some other stuff I have. Up on this part of the kitchen I have cutting board so I can make some lunch or dinner there. I have a hot plate for boiling water, cereal. Up here is the Tupperware, and then over here I've got a food cupboard with all my food. And this is the sink I've built, and the sink is basically like a 25-liter container filled with water, and I've attached these tubes here, so you just open it up, and then the water comes down this tube and out there. So you've got running water, you can do dishes, get a drink, whatever, and then the water filters into this bucket, which goes down into these holes here, which goes into a funnel, which leads into a separate container here. And I usually find I have to empty that container and refill that one, usually once a week, maybe twice. So over here above the bed, I've built a bar, and this is just to hold all my liquor and drinks and everything. But I've also got stuff at the back there behind the bed. So what I've done is I've built this little hinge here. This comes out, and then the hinge drops down, and then that can hold in place while you go and get whatever you need to from back there. Over here I've built a clothing rack, and this works just like it would in any closet. You put your clothes there, except I've included this little latch here on this string so you can push the clothing further to the wall, giving you more space. Up here I've built some shelving for some items that I'm storing in here that I don't really use too much. I got my snowboard hanging from the ceiling there. And as you can see, all the stuff I've built in here is all built basically hanging from the ceiling. And the way I did that is I just got 2x4s, really long 2x4s, and put them all the way across the unit. And then I used L brackets to build shelving down from that.
I think we can get the point, right? 2020, we started to see these things really come to a head when COVID-19 hit and the essential workers were left in the job fields, and people were being let go from $100,000 a year paying jobs like in tech, things like that. First thing they did was have them go work from home, and then a lot of those people, at least in Seattle, Washington, were not able to return back to the job market. They were just laid off as they realized, you know what, why don't we could just keep everybody working from home. I do believe this was structured this way on purpose, but you'll find perfectly intelligent people in these conditions. You'll find people with college degrees, people who prepared to live amidst that upper middle class, because it was a part of the plan. They followed the structure. They did good in high school. They went to college, got a degree, etc., etc. And then fast forward 2026, this is what they have. Now, I'm not saying that's what happened to this dude exactly, but he is an example of the financial situation that a lot of people are finding themselves in. And America is one of those places where, you may have worked to put yourself in that upper middle class, but the mindset is not being instilled in us to live below those means. It's always to want more and more and reach up for higher when it comes to what we're consuming and how often we're consuming it. And so, what we find ourselves in is when things get rough, we don't have savings. We have a lot of stuff that we don't know where to put when the eviction notice comes, but nothing to show for the hard work for real. I want your thoughts. I want your comments. Put them below. Let me know what you think about what's going on. When I begin to live stream, this may be one of the topics that we'll have to talk about. We'll have to discuss this at length, because it's not just him. It's not just a few people. It is a whole epidemic. There are a whole bunch of tutorials about how to move into storage spaces. MTV Cribs storage unit edition. And it's not a game, people. It's coming, and it's coming fast, and it's going to get a lot worse than this. This is the bright side. I want you to understand that. My prayers are with you.